Breaking news just in at CNN. Minister Andre Mendonça has authorized the opening of an investigation into the transfers from Banco Master for the film Dark Horse about the life of Jair Bolsonaro. The information we have is that the request was made by the federal police, the Attorney General's office was in favor, and Elijonas Maia will bring more information soon, saying that this investigation will be opened later today. That's the expectation. Just to remind you, there was a conversation between Flávio Bolsonaro and Daniel Vorcaro. In that conversation, the son of former President Jair Bolsonaro asked for funds to finance this movie. What the federal police wants to know now, and they should track Tainá Falcão, are the invoices, which prove the payments and the use of this money for the production of the movie. Because what suspicion was raised even in a filing by the Workers' Party? That this money was not used to make the movie, but rather for other projects of Jair Bolsonaro's family. I'm going to call Elijonas Maia because he spoke with sources from the federal police, and he now brings the latest news about this investigation. And now to Elijonas Maia with the latest from the federal police. They are focusing on this investigation, an investigation that should track these invoices to find out if what Banco Master really wanted was to finance the movie Dark Horse, or if money laundering may have occurred.
That's the suspicion, Uribe. In fact, this request made by the federal police already includes some elements that raise suspicions and indications for the opening of a formal investigation. Following this request, Minister Andre Mendonça's office, who is overseeing the master case at the Supreme Court, reached out to the Attorney General's office. So the Federal Public Prosecutor's Office agreed, including with the elements already gathered by the federal police, the initial elements for the opening of this inquiry, so this authorization was signed. By Minister Andre Mendonça, late yesterday afternoon, it's already with the federal police. And according to members of the Federal Police Association, this inquiry will be opened later today. What does this mean? It's another inquiry also related to the Banco Master network. Where did so much money from Banco Master go? That's another point, another element. And now a new line of investigation to find out if in fact this money, millions of reais that Daniel Vorcaro, who owned Banco Master at the time, had put up for the film Dark Horse, the audiovisual production, if in fact this money was entirely, in its entirety, used for the production of this film. Or if not, if it went somewhere else to another company, as there is a suspicion which has already been raised, even in some reports on the internet, or not. And with this investigation procedure opened, what else is there? Testimonies, disclosure of confidential records which the federal police can request, and there is already an expectation that such a request will be made. And the testimonies of those under investigation, and there are also in fact elements within the federal police regarding the sharing of information. When there is a justice overseeing the case, in this case, Minister Andre Mendonça, and other investigations already opened by the federal police about Daniel Vorcaro, with Daniel Vorcaro's cell phones, with message exchanges from Tiago Miranda, this request should not be forgotten either. The advertising executive who acted as the go-between for the sponsorship of the film Dark Horse. All of this comes from analyzing the cell phones where all that money went, whether that money really went there, and as you also pointed out very well, analyzing invoices. The invoices that were entered into the system to see if all that money really went to this audiovisual production. So, all of this comes from this investigation, which should be opened later today, according to information from the federal police. Oribi. We're looking for new information to find out about this investigation and whether formally, besides Daniel Vorcaro, other people will also be officially listed as suspects. There is no such information at this moment.
Glory Tyler, just as a reminder, in the interview he gave here to CNN Brazil, Flávio Bolsonaro said he would release the receipts. So far he hasn't released them, and it's been almost 4 months. So this should be one of the points that the federal police should look into, Tainá.
Okay. Well, we're trying to move forward here with the decision, right, to understand what arguments were presented by Minister Andre Mendonça. The minister's decision hasn't been made public yet to explain to our audience what the process was, right? It's been about 3 weeks since Andre Mendonça requested a statement, an opinion from the Office of the Prosecutor General, because according to the rules of the Supreme Federal Court, he can't respond to a criminal complaint without first getting that. So the opinion from the Prosecutor General's office, the statement came yesterday, Mendonça. After the opinion from the Office of the Prosecutor General, and today, Minister Andre Mendonça then rules in favor of the federal police. In other words, he opens the inquiry, authorizes the federal police to proceed with this investigation.
Minister Andre Mendonça from the Supreme Federal Court authorized today, actually it was yesterday, the opening of an inquiry to investigate transfers from Daniel Vorcaro for the production of the film Dark Horse, which is precisely about the life of former President Jair Bolsonaro. It was a request from the federal police to open this inquiry. There was a favorable statement from the Office of the Prosecutor General for the opening of this inquiry. Then the Supreme Court minister personally requested a statement from the Office of the Prosecutor General about the case. Of course, this is going to stir up a lot of debate, and it's really going to intensify the campaigns and pre-campaigns. G1 had already reported in June that federal police investigators were considering the possibility of opening investigations. Marcio Falcão tells us that there are basically 3 fronts, right? The transfers of millions of reais made by Daniel Vorcaro, which were made by Daniel Vorcaro at the request of Senator Flávio Bolsonaro. Those were the conversations. That came to light in May, right, in which Senator Flávio Bolsonaro demands the agreed amount from Daniel Vorcaro in order to finance this film. There is also a possibility that part of this money was used to support former Congressman Eduardo Bolsonaro, who lives in the United States. They deny this possibility, but there is this line of investigation at the request of the federal police. Whether this money, in some way, Daniel Vorcaro's money, was used to finance, to support, to help cover the expenses of former Congressman Eduardo Bolsonaro in the United States. And the allocation of congressional earmarks, that's also there, right, under the supervision, let's say, of the Brazil Supreme Court. Public money, parliamentary amendments for entities connected to the film's production company. So an amount of millions of reais. This was first reported by the website The Intercept Brazil. There were message exchanges, and we were talking about it throughout the program. How this negatively affected Senator Flávio Bolsonaro's campaign, who then had to spend a lot of energy explaining himself, explaining the connection with the former owner of Master, Daniel Vorcaro. So the money reached the fund responsible for financing Dark Horse through a company, and this company was already suspected of being part of what was called the master fraud ecosystem. So, because of that too, the investigation started to highlight and detail what was happening. And the goal of the federal police will be exactly to trace the money. What is the money trail? Where did the money end up? Was it passed on in exchange for some favor provided by the senator or the political group? And of course, we know that this has a huge impact on political campaigns and on the intensity of the debate.
That's Minister Andre Mendonça, who is the justice overseeing the master case, authorizing this investigation by the federal police into the financing of the film Dark Horse, which pays tribute to the life of former President Jair Bolsonaro. During the master investigations, the federal police came across the film Dark Horse. That's because there's money from the banker Daniel Vorcaro. The producers of the film claim that they did not receive any money from Master, and that they supposedly sold investment shares, right, to Daniel Vorcaro through companies, other business names. But it's really the same fund, right? It's the same, the money comes from the same source. It comes from Daniel Vorcaro. According to the information that the police have gathered so far, part of this is that audio that shows Senator Flávio Bolsonaro demanding investment money for the film that was overdue, money from Daniel Vorcaro. Later, Flávio himself even met personally with the banker in a situation where he was already wearing an ankle monitor to once again demand more funds. If the money didn't come through, it could make it impossible to complete the film that was scheduled to be released now in the second half of the year, right before the elections. The case then ended up coming to light during the Banco master investigation. But to proceed with this line of investigation, the federal police requested authorization from Minister Andre Mendonça, who, from within the federal Supreme Court, acts as the supervisor of the investigation. Before making this decision, Mendonça consulted the Office of the Prosecutor General, which was convinced by the evidence presented by the federal police that there were sufficient reasons and information to delve deeper into this investigation. So right away, we already know that one of the targets of the investigation is Daniel Vorcaro. It happens in the context of Banco Master, but who else is involved or suspected in this investigation? If politicians or people close to politics are involved, then it happens. We'll have to wait a little longer. The case is under seal, especially because it is very sensitive and the developments could impact the presidential race. It's breaking news now here on SBT News. Information from Jose Mateos and also from Cesar Feitosa, especially for you who are our viewers here. So is there an investigation into the money that was used to finance the movie Dark Horse? A movie about former President Jair Bolsonaro, authorized by Minister André Mendonça, who was appointed to the position by Bolsonaro, right, to the role of Supreme Court Justice. He didn't make this decision alone. He consulted the Attorney General's office, received a request from the federal police based on the findings. And part of that is the audio that shows the relationship, at least a commercial one, between Flávio Bolsonaro and Daniel Vorcaro, who is in prison in Brasilia. He has already made 2 or 3 attempts at a plea bargain agreement, both with the federal police and with the Attorney General's office, but they were considered insufficient. He didn't reveal what the police or investigators wanted to know beyond what they already had. Access to Vorcaro's bank records, and especially the fact that the investigation seized so many cell phones. It really served as a treasure map for this investigation, which has multiple lines of inquiry. The BRB master case is the backbone of this process that is underway in the Supreme Court. But also from there, they discovered embezzlement through pension funds, and now a new line of investigation will be pursued further that wants to understand the extent to which Banco Master or Daniel Vorcaro's businesses were used to finance former President Jair Bolsonaro's film. In other words, there are indications of a crime, right? So it's not an investigation just because it's about a political figure or because it's an election year. It's not about that. But because he was a banker with many political connections, he committed, according to the investigation, a tremendous fraud, one of the biggest in the Brazilian financial system.